Club president, and I'd like to welcome you all to the 12th meeting of the 48th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. Today's invocation of pledge of allegiance will be offered by the one and only Tim Moose.
Would you bow your heads with me, please? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your many blessings. We thank you for this day. Thank you for the fall weather. We just thank you for the opportunity to serve others through Rotary. We ask you to bless this food to our use and us by service and help us to do your will. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Teresa, would you please introduce? Yes, so many guests in this unitary.
Okay, hello everybody. I want to welcome our guests and visiting Rotarians today. Start with Joan Bird.
You know what, I'll go ahead and take the
You'll do
three
the
that I
whole
brought,
table.
okay?
Okay.
Because they're all scattered on there.
Perfect.
So I have Joan Bird here, which many of you know, she's very active in the Worthington community. I have Sarah Mullen, who is on the Worthington Schools Levy campaign. And I have Melissa Conrad, our retired superintendent and past member of this club. So be sure to say hello to Melissa.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Welcome.
And Barney Biondo.
Emily's
There we go. Hi.
visiting Rotarian.
Visiting Rotarian. I'll do that one more time.
1, 2, 3.
Wait till we find you.
Edward, I can't read the last name. Johnson, welcome. Tom Farwood is back with us today, and you want to introduce your guest?
Former member for several years. Just came back. I got a guest by two partners.
Gretchen?
Thank
you. Okay, welcome everybody.
Great turnout. All right, we're ready for our sergeant. There he is. Got a little nervous. And Carrie, come on up. Make him pay. It's $3 now. 50% increase. Can you believe that?
I will get them all. Jennifer, where'd she go?
I'm back here.
Sorry about your hunger, but please grab the pot. It's obviously Worthington Schools Day. Start with happy dollars. Who got them?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll give two of them because we just got back from a wonderful vacation where we get to visit not one, but two presidential libraries, Truman and Eisenhower, who live just a couple hours apart. So, or whose libraries are a couple hours apart, and it's a little bit a couple hours apart. So.
Welcome back.
Happy to be not in Florida, but in Ohio. Oh, yeah.
We're glad you're here also. Having a tough time down there, or they will. Happy dollars. Who else has them?
And
Yes, sir.
those who have condos, your flood insurance takes care of it first. The association does, so don't worry about it.
I won't lose any sleep over that, I promise you. Yes, sir.
I'm happy to be representing my daughter, seeing, instead of here, my daughter Emily is a member of your club, and I'm cat sitting, so I got to stand in for it today.
Hey!
Fantastic.
Ala and my daughter, son-in-law, and 2 kids are visiting us in 3 weeks from Dubai, and we're so happy to have them after so many years with COVID. We couldn't see them. They're the happiest people today from the news. Thank you.
Any others? Jerry?
We put in $1
celebrating my wife's birthday. I don't get to tell how old she is. And secondly, I want to announce that I traded in my truck.
Oh.
So don't be thinking that I can haul stuff around because I can't.
You get a bigger truck?
Yeah, for a bigger truck, right?
Come on, you got some.
Gary, you should tell what they said when you bought that truck about what you could fit in there, right?
Exactly, in the back seat, my salesman told me, it's so big, you can put a coffin in there.
Is there one in there still? Any other happy dogs? Jennifer?
So I'm gonna take this chance to thank Carrie K. Martin, who spent an afternoon at my house last week looking over the Rotary books and accounting to make sure everything was in good shape, and I really appreciate his advice and guidance and time to look over everything, so thank you.
And the sheriff's coming for me in about 10 minutes.
Do you have another dollar for that comment? Otherwise, quit taking up my time.
That's why he sold the truck.
Any other happy dollars? Melissa, welcome back. It's good to see you. Having all these people here from Worthington schools obviously brings a lot of memories back. I'm sorry, Jennifer, what's the young lady's name who's on the committee?
Sarah?
Sarah. In 1997, my wife and I shared a bond issue campaign for the Worthington schools. It was successful. Then Superintendent Damon Asbury promised me he'd send people to help us out. They never showed up. Good luck with all this. Speaking of Worthington schools, I know there's a lot of graduates of Worthington schools in this room. Jennifer, Jerry, myself, and a few others. I'm going to test your history a little bit, and everybody's wallet in this room is at stake. If you can't tell the room, and Jerry, you should know some of these. I was very lucky to go to Evening Street Elementary School, Perry Middle School, and then known as Thomas Worthington High School. Starting with what is now known as Thomas Worthington, the building at 300 West Dublin Granville Road, the original building, opened what year? Okay. You were around. We know you were.
I was gonna say 1955.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
You just cost everybody in the room $1.
There you go. I'm the treasurer. Why do you think I said that?
At least you had the courage to speak up. That building opened in 1952. And Jennifer and I will remember that in 1975, we couldn't walk down the hallway from one end of the building to another because of the construction. We had to walk outside when it was 10 degrees out, get from the east to the west end of that building. You do remember that, don't you?
Yes, I remember.
That's when we were creating strong youth. And look at that.
And we were. Evening Street Elementary opened what year? Anybody?
I believe maybe 3.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
You just saved everybody in the room $1. Evening Street opened 1963. Well done. And finally, what year did Perry Middle School open?
1969.
You guys are really lucky she's here because Perry Middle School did in fact open 1969.
Wow.
Congratulations. Have a great week, everybody.
All right, announcements. If anybody has announcements, please make your way up here. I have an important one, so listen up. This impacts your calendar. So next week, wild week, totally crazy week. We're gonna have, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. Instead of a Wednesday meeting, we're meeting Friday at the Country Club at Mirfield Village at 7:30 a.m. It is our official district governor visit with Marysville, Dublin AM, and Worthington AM. So if you show up here Wednesday at noon, you will be sad. Friday, I will send an email. Just so you know, Friday. All right, the other thing, we're gonna have an impromptu social because our good friend Tim Shear is on his way down to Chattanooga, Tennessee in a van with maybe Steve Heiser. And on their way back, they're gonna bring the Mongolian delegation. So Arangu, and that clan, they're gonna be up here next week, maybe 2 weeks. I'm not clear. But the key point here is we're gonna have a social event somewhere between here and Columbus, probably somewhere in Clintonville, Monday evening. That is the 3rd. Coming up. It's totally impromptu. If you can make it, great. I'm still figuring out a location, more details to come, and I will put all of this in an email. Okay. Joe Patch.
Thank you, Steve. And while you are entering things in your calendar, please know that the International Service Committee would like any member of the club, all members of the club, if you so choose, to join us. We're going to have a goal-setting strategy meeting at Steve's offices, October 11. Pizza and beverages 6 to 7. That's a Tuesday night. And then 7 to 8:30, we'll be getting down to brass tacks, and we need to think outside the box and come up with some ideas. And we wish at the end of the evening to sit back and say, those look like worthy goals for our next several years of the International Service Committee. And on a personal note, I really feel that the International Service Committee can be a new avenue into Rotary for people who are not yet members of our club, can be a fruitful and interesting connection to our Rotary mission. So it already is. We can do more. We'd like some new viewpoints, and we'd like folks from every committee of the club to think of this as an opportunity to help us all. Thanks.
I just want to make an announcement that the district is holding a fund or a raising donation for socks. We're calling it Socktober. And this is district-wide, and the goal is to accumulate 3,200 pairs of socks to donate. So Steve suggested that you can buy them very inexpensively on Amazon, buy a multi-pack, or Sam's Club or Costco. And if anybody has any ideas within our community in Dublin and Worthington, where we may donate those socks, they suggest the Salvation Army, open shelters. I would look for suggestions on where you think we should donate those. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, I found a 10-pack of socks for like $8 shirt. And if the district only wants 3,200 pairs, we're gonna do that pretty quick.
Do they have holes in them or something?
Yeah, pretty warm. Holes. They're Swiss cheese socks.
They're for infants.
Yeah. All right, the last announcement I have is just the food drive. We had a great sign up turnout last week. Food drive is October 29th. I think we still have some more slots to fill. If you are interested, willing and able, please reach out to Andrew Sangholz to sign up, or you can email me. I'll help you out. All right, any other announcements? I always feel like I forget one, but we'll have to wait. All right, I think we're ready for our program. Mr. Trent Powers.
Okay, so I actually get to introduce our speaker today because you guys get to hear from me quite a bit. So that's a fun spot to be. I appreciate first, Ken, I appreciate your comments and just, you know, we all know strong public schools, strong communities. And so many of you in this room have deep connections to Worthington schools. And so this is a friendly space when we come to talk, but we are on the ballot, right? And so when that happens, it's important that we share the information of the what and the why. And so TJ Cusick is the treasurer of Worthington Schools. He is a Steubenville graduate, you know, from the Ohio Valley, a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, a Tennessee Titans fan, even though his dad is a Pittsburgh Steelers season ticket holder, so, you know, who knows on some of those types of things. He's obviously a CPA. He's been with Worthington Schools for 16 years, but has been our treasurer for 2 years. And I will tell you, there's nobody better that I can work with in this role. So TJ is going to explain the what and the why, and then we'll both be happy to answer as many questions as we can for you. So ladies and gentlemen, Mr. TJ Cusick, by the way, Worthington AM Rotary member, so.
Just want to say, first of all, thank you all for your work at Rotary as a fellow Rotarian and Worthington AM Rotary. I see firsthand not only the local initiatives that we do, but the worldwide initiatives that we do. It means a lot. So thank you for letting me be here. As Trent mentioned, I'm here to talk about Worthington's 2 issues, issue 6 and issue 7, that are on the ballot. And typically, when I'm out speaking, I usually start out with saying that issue 6 and 7 are there to clean up the mess that our former superintendents have left us in, since Melissa Conrad is in the room. I'm gonna have to change my speech on the fly, so bear with me. But as you all, no joke, she was superintendent when I first got hired. So we appreciate her as well. So for those of you, I start off by saying Worthington schools, our student population is growing. If you're somewhat disconnected and don't have children in our schools, when I started 16 years ago, we had 9,400 students. Last year, we ended the year with 10,600 students, so we're up 1,200 students over that time. And we project to grow another 600 students over the next 4 to 5 years. And really, that's housing turnover. As you know, there's not a lot of land growth and development. That's reinvestment in homes turning over. Really, a desire, as Central Ohio continues to grow, a desire to live in Worthington. Appreciate that, but with that comes challenges, and that's really what's partly behind both issue 6 and issue 7. And so 6 years ago, our group of community members formed a task force to address that enrollment growth. We knew we needed to address our capacity, we needed to find seats for all of these additional students, but we also had to address our aging infrastructure. As we heard earlier, we have buildings that opened anywhere from the 50s to the 70s to the 90s. Our newest building, Fillmore High School, is over 30 years old. And oftentimes people refer to that as our new high school, right? And it's over 30 years old. So we knew we had to address those challenges, and that group came up with a multi-phase long-term facilities plan. And ultimately, what we saw last year open was phase 1 of that plan, in which we renovated and expanded our middle schools, and that really took 2 birds with 1 stone. It addressed our capacity issue because we expanded them, and it addressed the condition of those. If you've been in them, they're fantastic. They opened last year, and that was the result of voter approval of an issue in 2018. Phase 2 of that plan is targeting high schools. So phase 2 is what issue 6 is all about. And it's a bond issue combined with a permanent improvement issue, a $234 million bond issue combined with a $1.9 million permanent improvement money. And that bond issue will devote a significant amount of proceeds, bulk of those proceeds, to Thomas Worthington to really rebuild Thomas Worthington at that site. We'll save some of the gymnasium, the newer parts, but really it's going to rebuild that entire site. And then also, as I mentioned, Fillmore High School, with being 30 years old, doesn't need rebuilt, but it needs to be roofed. It needs some classroom work. It needs to address the parking flow in and out of that facility, if you've ever been there. So all told, that bond issue, 217 of that 234 million will be devoted to rebuilding those 2 facilities. We've accelerated the drawings, and so if the issue passes, we hope to break ground this spring. But it will be a 3 to 4 year process, because unlike, say, an old candy where we're building in a field, we have to keep students in that building as we build. So it'll be a phase-in approach. Our hope is that that will be finished in 24-25 school year. So, and then with that is a permanent improvement money. And so that will provide about $4 million annually to fund 5 to 7 bus replacements, all of our technology infrastructure that needs replaced on cycles, some playground equipment, those things that In the past, we've put in the bond issues, but, you know, as we met as a finance group, it makes sense to put them in a permanent improvement levy because you cut out the interest. So we know we're always gonna need to replace 5 to 7 buses. We have 90 buses. We don't want to get in a situation where we have to replace all 90. So we try to do that in cycles, our technology that we're dependent on each cycle. So it makes sense for us to try to cut out interest on debt, fund those through a permanent improvement levy. So it's one vote, one issue, combination, bond issue, permanent improvement levy. Issue 7 is related to our day-to-day operations, what we need to run school on a day-to-day basis. And as I mentioned, we're growing, and so that is going to require additional staff with that growth in order to maintain our current programming. And as this group probably knows, in Ohio, you know, school funding is a partnership between the state and the locality. And as an above average well school district, we get over 80% of our revenue from local taxpayers, right? State needs us above average in that formula. And so the majority of our revenue comes from local taxpayers. And local property taxes don't grow over time substantially with inflation, right? So unlike a city that has an income tax that grows as wages grow, Ohio has a bill in place that actually reduces your property tax rate as your house is reappraised. So we get a little bit, but not substantial growth. So that's why I really see the school district come back periodically. We passed an operating levy in 2018. That was an incremental operating levy. We indicated it in the last 4 years. Here we are, and we this issue 7 is identical in size to that levy. It's 2.9 mil incremental levy. It starts at 2.9 mils, and it will add 2 mils each of the following 3 years. And we commit that we will stay on the ballot for this another 4 years. Worthington is unique in its incremental approach. Most districts do traditional levies, so you see Upper Arlington is on the ballot now for 6.9 mils. That's all collected immediately. Worthington tries to phase that in what we call incremental levy. So it starts at 2.9, it grows by 2 and 2 and 2. And we think that's advantageous for both parties. It phases it in, it matches revenue. I'm an accountant by trade, so it matches revenue with expenses when we need them. I always joke with a friend of mine in my Rotary, who's north of 80, always says, I like the incremental because I might not have to pay that last year. You know, we believe it's a good option. So, what will these cost is the obvious question. The interesting thing about bond issue, so we have debt that we issued in 2006 and 2012. So our current millage rate is expected to drop by 3.6 mils. So $234 million bond issue is projected to cost 4.6 mils. But because that debt is rolling off, we estimate that the increase, the net increase from this year to next year, if the issue passes on that bond issue, is just 1 mil. And so combined with a 1.9 mil PI, that's 2.9 mils for capital, and then incremental is 2.9 mils. So that 5.8 mils will cost approximately $203 per 100,000 of appraised value on the home. So you can do the math, divide by 100,000, multiply by $203. I always remind people to check your appraised value for the county auditor, not Zillow or not from someone who's calling you asking you to buy your home. Not that I don't think you can sell your home for that, but your county appraised value is usually significantly higher, lower, and that's ultimately what your taxes are based on. So issue 6, capital bond issue, permanent improvement levy. Issue 7, incremental operating levy. With that, I really open to some questions, some dialogue. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Issue 7, we explained how taxes work in Ohio. Explain it one more time because that every time I've been involved with anything in this area, people do not understand that.
Yeah, so Ohio has a law, and it's interesting. It's interesting in a lot of ways, but it's relatively unique to Ohio. Although states are aware of it, but it has a law called House Bill 920. So it's a law to protect homeowners, But when a new levy hits the books, it generates a certain amount of money based on the total value, total property value in that subdivision. So let's say the new levy generates $1 million that first year. Then next year, the county comes in and appraises all the homes at a 20% increase. They then take that tax rate and reduce it so that the school district gets roughly the same $1 million. So the tax rate actually drops down, and you can see that in effect if I had a slide here in the 2020 reappraisal. Franklin County just went through a reappraisal where it was significant increases of 15 to 20%, and our tax rate actually dropped by 3 or 4 mils. There's this little nuance called inside millage. It's a small part of the pie. It's 4 mils that actually grows with inflation, but for us, it's less than 1% of our revenue. So for all intents and purposes, the school district does not get more money from reappraisal, because unlike a city that has income tax, that's why schools have periodically returned voters, especially schools like us that are deemed to be locally wealthy and have to rely on local property taxes. Question?
When you talk about share of state funds, what was it 10, 20 years ago? Now 20%.
Yeah, that's another good question. So if I go back to 2006, all right, 2006 was the year the state changed, major changes to their 2 property taxes. They eliminated the tangible personal property tax, which was a tax on business machinery and equipment. So we, Worthington, benefited tremendously from that based on manufacturing over Bush Boulevard and out of Bush, so on and so forth. The state implemented what they call the CAT tax, commercial activity tax. And that was a more broad-based tax, it was an effort to track manufacturing back to Ohio. So anyway, during that time, to answer your question, we were about 78% locally funded, but that 78% was evenly split between commercial and residential. 40 million came from commercial and 40 million came from residential. Fast forward to today, we're more so, we're 81% locally funded, but 2/3 of that 80% is from residential. So the state has had this shift, and right or wrong, I'm not here to talk politics. The state has done a good job of reducing income tax, right? So working class folks are paying less income tax. We see Intel coming in, so we see the benefit of some of those policies, but what's not talked about is still the need to fund local services becomes more locally based. And that's what you see it play out over time. So to answer your question, it's still roughly 80%, but it's predominantly residential.
So could you talk a little bit about the phasing in of the reconstruction with Thomas and made a huge reconstruction there.
Yeah, so we're going through that now. Timing is a big thing on what you do at certain times and where you move those kids into an area that's finished.
You probably don't want to talk about that because that's going to get people upset. That's
Well,
I take away the question.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think you're going to see some drawings come out over the next month or 2 from our school. But what the architects called it was surgical demolition, which in my mind, that sounded expensive. But that's the only way to do it, right? So you take away, let's say, the auditorium. You got to have a place for those kids to go. And so I think they're working out a good plan on how to do that. I think what you'll see is Thomas is going to become more of a square. Because one of the drawbacks right now is it takes forever to go from one end to the other. It's crowded, so you're going to see more of a natural square shape, perfect square, less of a length. But yeah, it's going to be over multiple years. And what I will say is, it's just like maybe they walked outside. Our kids are going to have to go through some tough stuff. And they will probably tell the kids they walk outside uphill those ways.
We did. And I did.
I know what it's short, I think you'll see some of that.
I add on to that. So when we talk about Thomas Worthington, for those of you that are Worthington people, we kind of think about that site as Worthington Central Park. So there are things that we've just kind of deemed as untouchables. So the front lawn and those trees on the front lawn we feel like those are untouchable. They're really important to the Worthington community. So it'd be easier to say, build a school up front and flip that property. Well, we don't feel like we can do that, right? And then the flats, those of us, as you head towards the river, there's a lot of green space there, but it's all in a floodplain, which has actually flooded multiple times in the last few years. So you can't build a school in that floodplain. We did look at opportunities to say, should you build in the current student parking lot and kind of flip the site that way? And that creates all sorts of intricate challenges with this thing we have in Worthington called Swim Inc. and the local pool, which is on Worthington school property, but isn't run by Worthington schools. And so do you really want the pool to be sitting right in front of your school? That didn't make a ton of sense. So it was deemed that the best idea was to build on its current site. It'll come out a little bit farther to the south, but not farther than the current parking lot does. And then it will be less, it won't go as far to the east as it currently does. And then baseball and softball will be behind the school. So those neighbors on Medic that currently deal with traffic and car lights in the evening will have baseball and softball. And our softball field right now is down in that floodplain, right? So that doesn't make sense. There's no restroom facilities. So all of that gets translated in that site. So we're really excited about it. We're hoping to roll out to our community some drawings. We held a meeting back in June to say, hey, what do you think it needs to look like? That's not real surprising how that came out in Worthington, right? It has to be brick, some of those kind of things. So obviously we need to meet the needs of our local community. But there's no question that Thomas Worthington, anyone who's been in Thomas Worthington, when Jennifer and Ken talk about it, I went to Thomas Worthington, it hasn't changed. And it's actually not worse than it was. We've maintained it really well, but it's nowhere near what today's standards are for a school. That long hallway is too narrow. It doesn't create traffic flow. It's just, people did the best they could over time. It's time for us to create a modern facility. Upper Arlington opened a new high school. Grandview's opening their new high school here in January. Dehanna's rebuilding a high school. Westerville South's rebuilding a high school. We know that Olentangy and Dublin schools are all newer than ours. We want Worthington to continue to be a place that families choose for both the educational environment and for the broader community. And it's time for that to happen at that site. So it's a really exciting plan. New field house, our current field house at Thomas Worthington High School at Down Nelson Field, if you know that old facility, locker room facility, it gets demolished in November. That was part of phase 1 of our plan. And this plan does include a new natatorium. So the natatorium we see as a school district site. 8 of our teams use the natatorium. So between Worthington, Kilburn High School and Thomas Worthington. So again, none of us really question one team using the baseball stadium. 8 of our teams use the natatorium. So we're not in the outdoor pool business, but we do need to be in the indoor pool business for the natatorium as part of this high school redesign plan. So it could be really exciting for the future of Worthington.
I was wondering, can you build up?
So we are looking at 3 stories across the front. It's really, we only have 2 stories. We have a basement. We don't want a basement. But we do currently have a basement. But it really won't be a whole lot taller than it is currently because of how it's currently designed. But yeah, we will have 3 stories of classrooms. So that probably gets built first so that you can move students out of old classrooms into new classrooms. Greater challenges when you get to things like band room spaces and auditorium spaces and all of those types of things. If you live in Worthington, most people, in my neighborhood, I live across the street from Thomas, everybody has a dumpster out front. We don't. Everybody has a dumpster out front. Everybody's done an addition, and it's the same process, right? It's going to be painful through the process to get to the other side for something better that lasts for 40 years. So.
Stadium stays where it is.
Stadium stays where it is, field stays where it is. There's no real redesign there, so.
Are there many districts that use a resident income tax to partially fund their operation? And it's what's never considered
I don't know the part about considering, it, but I can tell you, we had this discussion there. You usually see that in rural farming communities. Farmers don't like property tax, and they like to be able to pay taxes as crops come in. The only
district around here that I know is Bexley that has a combination. They have some property village and some income tax. I think maybe Reynoldsburg has all one. But you don't usually see that in suburban districts that I'm aware of. And honestly, what I tell people is the incremental is kind of the best of both worlds, right? It allows you to have a stable base, and if you started out smaller and grow it, it allows more growth over that time period.
Yeah, just to add a comment, if you were to have an income tax instead of a property tax, there are two consequences. One is you don't get the 10% rollback and the 2.5% rollback that the state does pay. So you're paying 100%, not just 87.5% of the revenue that goes to the school district. The second thing is it's only residents that pay. Businesses don't pay. Unless the business owner lives here, and if it's a corporation, that's not an issue. So they're basically saying it's going to cost the average household double what it would give a given amount of money to the school district, what it would do if you go with a property tax.
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are across the state percentage wise. Like I said, it's more geographic than anything. But, if it wasn't for household 920, we had growth on appraised value, then we would stay off Allen.
Where are you continuing to see all the growth trend?
That's actually a great segue. So we're continuing to see all the growth.
Well, I was supposed to ask that now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's all Sarah Mullen's fault, and Sarah is a local realtor and also here for, on behalf of our citizens group that's working on our campaign. So it really is housing turnover, right? So previously, in our last housing study said that the previous generation stayed in our houses in Worthington for 28 years. So remarkably long time. And so again, if you know Worthington, we had about 10,500 kids in the late 90s. We dropped down to 8,900 students around 2008-ish. Because everything went north to Delaware County, pointing the wrong way. Everything went north to Delaware County. You can think about that if you remember all the neighborhoods being built, cheap financing, everything went north. From about 2010 on, people have come back to Worthington. And for lots of different reasons, right? But they're reinvesting in our housing stock. 43085 was just said to be the third hottest real estate market in America by one of the Zillow or Realtor.com or one of those things. We have this incredible location within the Columbus region, and the Columbus region continues to grow, right? MORPAC says we're going to add 600,000 more residents within the next 20 years. So we see that growth in Columbus. So it really is purely housing turnover. There's not a lot of growth of housing stock or even apartment stock. It's houses are turning over. And then the question is, long term, will people stay in their houses, or will my generation choose other types of housing as hopefully more variety is built? And then as houses turn over, usually it's people with kids, because those are the folks that want the single houses. So we'll see on that. But we are projected to continue to grow by at least another 600 kids over the next 4 years. Those seem accurate. I mean, those seem pretty realistic. And we're not, everybody within Central Ohio is growing. I mean, that's, you see that in all of our local communities, because Columbus as a region is really growing. So with that, Sarah, would you like to say a few words? So before I give the mic to Sarah, let me say that I really do appreciate Sarah. So some of you, Ken, you mentioned that you worked on one of these campaigns, chaired one of these campaigns. We rely on volunteers in our community, parents and other volunteers, to really run a campaign on behalf of the school district. So Sarah's done a ton of work on that. She has a student at Colonial Hills and a student at Kilbourne Middle School, is a local realtor, so selling lots of properties in our Worthington region. But also, as you can tell, just volunteering the heck out of this thing. So I'll let her say a few words.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Trent. I grew up in Worthington. I did not attend Worthington schools, but I moved back 12 years ago for the purpose of being back in Worthington and all that it had to offer, as well as the opportunity to send my sons to Worthington school. So I'm proud to be doing so. My sister is a principal in the district, So I am passionate about Worthington schools, so thank you for having me. I am working on behalf of the levy campaign for Worthington schools. And I just wanted to take a few minutes and tell you, if you're so inclined, how you can get more involved with our campaign. We do have a website, which is forworthingtonschools.com. It's worthingtonschools.com. On that website, you can donate, you can request a yard sign, you can find out more information on the campaign. Lots of great information on that website, so please check it out if you'd like. If you're active on social media, of course, we are there. Also for Worthington Schools on both Facebook and Instagram. So feel free to share that with your friends, your neighbors. And we have some opportunities to get involved if you'd like to do that. So you'll see us out at the farmer's market, you'll see us out at events around town. You may see us at a football game. So if you'd like to get involved and volunteer, we would love to have you. And we have a fundraiser coming up on October 19th. That's at Worthington Hills Country Club, Cocktails and Conversation. So if you're interested in something like that, more information is also on the website. Right? I did bring a few yard signs. If you'd like one, please feel free to take one. If they run out, you can request a yard sign at forworthingtonschools.com. Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic, and thank you, TJ, and what turned into basically a panel today, so let's thank them all again. So, next week, trivia time. Who can tell me what day our meeting is on next week?
Friday.
Friday. Who can tell me what time?
7:30.
Who can tell me where?
Nobody.
Oh, yeah, it's over there. Who's coming?
Who's coming? The governor.
Yeah, the district governor. One thing I did forget to mention is that there is a registration required, and I did send out an email about that last week. I will send it again. If you show up and didn't register, we probably won't turn you away, but we're trying to get an accurate head count. Okay, now, we sold so many raffle tickets, we sold out. Right? Or maybe some of them were stolen, we're not sure, but we have a raffle. How much is in the pot, buddy? $18.
Last four, 1965.
That's a good year.
That's not a good number.
Eric, $19. What do we got in Ace of Spades? 106.
$1975.
1975.
That was a good year.
Oh.
Roger, come on up. Got a nice slate of cards there for you. You can't do it. Don't believe it. 5 hearts. Nice for playing. And as is tradition, if you would join me in the recitation of our 4-way test. The things we think, say, and do. First,
Is it the truth?
second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
and fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, everybody, for a great meeting. Have a great rest of your week. We are adjourned.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I was trying to use the
Yeah, I got the. When did you use it last week? Yeah.
Oh, you go ahead, 'cause I have to talk to some.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Yeah. I'll see if I can turn that setting off, actually. Does cause.
Well, and also.
Yeah, just comment. Yeah, that'd be the easiest. Thank you. Yes. No, next week. I wouldn't even bother.
I do work for my field. I want to be
Oh, okay.
I know, I was thinking of.
Let's go.
Still playing.
Yes.